Are you watching?
There's new AI video generators that let you do things like melt, crush, smash, or even turn objects into cake. This AI, or maybe not, generated unicorn is making people completely question reality. So people are starting to make these accessories for your hands that give you extra fingers so that if somebody takes a photo of you and then they look at it later, it looks like a deep fake gone wrong. So there's this thing on the internet where people think that they might have gone through quantum time jumps. Yeah, we'll look into it. It's not real. There's a sick new AI model that might make a real difference in climate change. It turns out that you can actually generate images of how people act to then teach robots how to act, and then they actually act like people, which is kind of a weird Inception inside of Inception thing. In what is definitely the best AI alliance I have heard of yet, Amazon, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Deloitte, all of these people came together to help fight cancer. Government's floating an interesting potential ban on Chinese hardware and software when it comes to vehicles. NVIDIA just dropped a bombshell, like an entire giant AI model similar to GPT-4. Some college students have already figured out how to use Meta's new smart glasses to dox people in real time. Verizon found an interesting use of AI. That's to dig through over 10 million requests annually for where you can dig without cutting into a fiber optic cable. So I guess scientists have found some, quote, negative time in some quantum experiments. Pretty interesting stuff. And we're going to talk about a new conversational large language model that amplifies false memories in witness interviews. This one's nuts. It's just nuts. We're going to talk about the intraterrestrial hypothesis, something that really hadn't occurred to me because expanding as a society seems so natural to me, but what if it goes the other way? What if they close up and go inside their planet? Is the future of humans not out there in space, but actually deeper inside our own planet? All right, so new AI video model, Pika Labs 1.5, is kind of blowing everybody's mind right now. Look, melt it. Everything just melts away. Inflate it. What the heck's going on with that dog? And those pancakes. Oh, so satisfying. You can crush all that stuff. You can squish things and you can blow it up. Yeah, definitely WTF. This has got to be one of the most unique little add-ons for social media I have ever seen. Look at that guy. You could just squish him, little guy. Let's give some feedback to Arthur. Is he doing it right? Okay, looks like a hippo, and now it's a, whoa. Oh, it's a little squishy toy. That's pretty weird. All right, let's see what happens to this guy. It looks like maybe a politician or something. And oh, it explodes with alien-like insides. Oh, cool. Looks like a gaming GPU. Let's see what happens in the night. Oh, it's just a piece of cake. Oh. Imagine a world where all objects are cake. If you could just cut into GRIMLOCK here, pull them apart. You know what? If you happen to have a Pika 1.5 Labs, can you do that for me? Can you turn GRIMLOCK into a piece of cake? Here, I'll take a photo of it and put it on the community tab right now. All right, so I'm going to put this out there. If somebody can use AI video to melt, crush, or cake a robot dinosaur like GRIMLOCK, I would really appreciate that. Posted.
Hit the like button.
You can view my email here. Or actually, even better, you can click my Patreon right here, join, and then message me directly. That would be the best. And it even works with cartoons? Oh, paintings? Oh, the weird thing about the paintings is it kind of sees the people as like full objects. Interesting. Oh man, look at that train explode. Whoa. Whoa, the future of Mr. Beast's thumbnails. Look at that. This AI-generated video on Instagram got over 5 million likes. The single comment itself, "Is that real?" ended up getting 1,600 likes and about 450 replies. But then 18,000 people wanted to point out that it's the hands. It's always the hands. Which is why the hot commodity for Halloween, probably Christmas this year, is extra fingers in real life that you wear on your finger. Not kidding. So if you're worried about something you do coming back to bite you, and then you want to pretend that you never did it and it was a deep fake, then just wear one of these all the time. It's perfect for politicians, bureaucrats, tech CEOs, anybody who wants to lie all the time. I mean, tell me, if you saw a photo of Donald Trump with that extra finger on it, you'd be like, oh, it's just deep fake. It's not real. And look, people recognize the genius. And like, this comment is true. In a year or two, AI will be even more realistic and this won't work. That's why you got to buy it now. This is your window, at least for the next few months. Also, as long as we're talking about viral sci-fi, I know the massive timeline shift guys got like 250,000, but we should just acknowledge that it's probably not real. It's definitely not real. Now, he's making a statement that I guess yesterday, the day before he posted this, there was a timeline shift and his evidence seems to be like a waveform with a gap in it.
See that little line right there?
So you see that little line right there? That's where I guess the universe just quantum jumped, but for some reason his recording software didn't have a problem and just noticed the gap. Even though I suppose all the humans on Earth and all the quantum consciousness had no problem. But of course, not all of us made the jump. There's a couple ways to tell if you made the quantum jump or if you just stayed on the same timeline. If you have a headache, you don't feel like yourself, well, then you timeline jumped. I mean, like, what other explanation could there be? Even though I suppose all the humans on Earth and all the quantum consciousness had no problem. But of course, not all of us made the jump. There's a couple ways to tell if you made the quantum jump or if you just stayed on the same timeline. If you have a headache, you don't feel like yourself, well, then you timeline jumped. I mean, like, what other explanation could there be?
And or if you woke up in a completely different confidence, a confidence that just felt like no fucks given, like nothing is bothering you, you feel good, but you kind of feel empty, you quantum jumped. Now, within timeline shifts like this, I'm finally realizing there are events within our matrix, within our simulation, that always...
Look at this, 76 people like his comments that they had headaches today. Those are all quantum timeline jump people. Look at this, had a massive headache way out of the normal. What else could explain that? Leave a comment if you did a quantum jump this morning. All right, I thought this article was super interesting. So artificial intelligence is now being applied to finding the kind of critical minerals which actually are super rare, and they make a lot of the renewable energy really expensive, which is actually really fascinating if you think about the knock-on effects. If this works and mining for the kind of materials that we need to make solar panels is incredibly efficient, the price drops down of the solar panels, and all of a sudden renewable energy becomes way more realistic and more affordable. All right, so coming out of the University of Tasmania, which is awesome, AI has the potential to improve mineral efficiency, reduce risks, and make the process more environmentally friendly. So it's using some techniques like drone-based photogrammetry. So an outside-of-the-box project. AI-generated images are actually being used to train robots. Now, for a long time, we've talked about how robots can be trained in simulation, and then you download the software into it. And more recently, we had that really innovative piece, forgot what university it came out of. That was actually the XAI, I think, where they were starting to simulate using real-world data, which was like... didn't even think about how useful that would be. But I suppose if you take real world data and then you start generating images or maybe video in the future that simulates the kind of real world data, that you might start to also approximate the environments that you would need to then put into the robot. So it's very Inception, but Gen AI models are so good at creating pictures, they can even be fine-tuned to generate useful robotic training data. So they developed a new system, it's called Genema, or maybe Genema, I don't know. But the point is, it fine-tunes image generation AI models, it's using stable diffusion to actually draw robot movements. And then to use those images to help guide the robot in simulations and eventually in the real world. Getting feedback from both of those could make it exponentially easier to train different types of robots to complete tasks. And it could also help make the future of AI web agents better at scrolling and clicking. Scrolling and clicking, that's what I do. It's not extinction time, Grimlock. It's time for you to learn about how images can help guide the future of robotics. Oh, dang. I actually haven't seen him do the mountain climbers before. That was pretty cool. GRIMLOCK, it says right here, you can use image generation systems to do almost all of the things that you can do in robotics. Saves time.
Make GRIMLOCK stronger. Make GRIMLOCK possibly.
One of those awesome but sort of rare times when all the big tech companies come together to use their AI for a single purpose, we end up with the kind of collaboration that we would probably love to see all the time. And that's exactly what happened with this, the Cancer AI Alliance. So major cancer centers have come together. They've put together over $40 million in funding. They've made partnerships with many of the big tech companies, Amazon's AWS, Microsoft's Azure, NVIDIA's cloud, and the alliance is working together to harness AI to revolutionize cancer research and treatment by analyzing vast amounts of data from various cancer centers. Yeah, which makes a ton of sense for me. AI is a great tool, and they're claiming that the Cancer Institute should be able to speed up discoveries, improve treatments, and address rare cancers using advanced AI and cloud computing. They even have a path forward that expects them to start making serious breakthroughs by the end of 2025. Like, I believe in AI to change the world in the long run. If it happens sooner rather than later, and it happens with an alliance that's working to solve something that is the scourge of society, then that is fantastic. But going back to the real world of infighting, China and the US are at it again. This time the concern is hardware and software that's coming from China for American vehicles. It's kind of funny because I remember, maybe even almost 2 years ago, where Teslas in China were getting scrutinized because they took video and they sent it up to the cloud. And a lot of times they were banned from especially Chinese government, areas and things like that, because in a way they were surveillance that was bringing information back to an American company. So I probably shouldn't have been surprised when they started floating a ban recently about a proposal to ban Chinese software and hardware in connected vehicles, because it's literally the inverse of that. But the U.S. Commerce Department is expected on Monday to propose prohibiting Chinese software and hardware in connected and autonomous vehicles on American roads due to national security concerns. The Biden administration has raised serious concerns on the collection of data by Chinese companies on U.S. drivers and infrastructure, as well as potential foreign manipulation of vehicles connected to the internet and navigation systems. It kind of makes sense to me, so I generally guess I'm in favor of it. So I didn't expect NVIDIA to drop a GPT-4 competitor, but they just did, pretty much out of the blue. VentureBeat is saying that it is a new AI model that is open, massive, and ready to rival GPT-4. They're a major player. They have the compute, they have the technical talent. It's not surprising to me that they could build a giant LLM to compete with OpenAI. I guess I'm just surprised that they did. So company's new model, NVLM 1.0, is 72 billion parameters, exceptional performance across vision and language tasks. The model weights are publicly available. And if you look at these benchmarks, it looks super competitive with the other open source options and, a pretty comparative. I mean, it's getting beat out by GPT-4 in most metrics, but not by much, which in itself is impressive for their first gen model. I mean, you can see it pretty much understands the meme, the abstract in the paper. It knows that the contrast between the two animals is humorous because it visually represents the idea that the summary of a paper can be much more impressive or intimidating than the actual content of the paper. That is exactly why that meme is funny. All right, be prepared to get doxxed in real life if you see someone wearing these cameras looking at you in the near future. College students have used Meta's new smart glasses to dox people in real time. The demo highlights the dark side of AR glasses, according to The Verge. So this fun little demo example, scary vision of what the future will be like, was done by 2 Harvard students. They added this AI-powered feature to those Meta glasses, and they're calling it Eye-X-ray. The only thing that it does when it looks at somebody it doesn't recognize, it reveals their personal information, like their name, their address, and their phone number, just by looking them up. So they were able to use the smart glasses with the camera in them to use facial recognition software similar to PIM eyes. And then the system goes out there, it finds public data, then it processes it through a large language model to extract personal details. And yeah, it works. Not on everybody, not all the time, but a lot of us just have a ton of information that's leaked out there on the internet. Now, of course, the students emphasized that they were just building it to raise awareness about the privacy risks. It was not about trying to get girls' phone numbers without asking them. Does lower the bar for accessing some of this information about people. It does highlight the growing concern about, even if that information is leaked out there, that when you just keep lowering the bar, it is eventually like just more dangerous, right? Like, even if that stuff is leaked out there, not a lot of us are going to go to the dark web. People aren't going to like search you down. But if it's just like, it just shows up in your vision, it's just worse. Like, not that it couldn't have been done before. It's just now accessible to so many people. And they're just that much easier to like use your doxed information in inappropriate ways. Let's be honest. All right, big telecom and I guess actually cable-oriented company, Verizon, is now using AI and machine learning to figure out what to do with the tens of millions or the 10 plus million requests that it gets every single year for whether or not you can dig in a certain location without cutting into a fiber cable. So think about it. We have these fiber cables that are just in the ground, these phone cables, power cables, who knows like what's down there anymore, right? We've dug so many trenches and put so many cables in them now, and so many people want to dig into that to build new buildings and do things that we're starting to make a lot of mistakes. So Verizon has deployed a new AI program to help prevent damage to its fiber infrastructure. Now, I didn't know this, but it makes sense to me that every year thousands of these fiber lines are damaged as a result of accidental cuts during construction and excavation of homeowners and outside agencies. And you know when one of these construction companies cuts through a fiber cable and everybody downstream is like, dude, I lost my Overwatch game. Verizon's handling those calls. It's costing them money. So it makes sense that they would build this software, and it's a technology that evaluates the risk of where the fiber cuts are based on the location's history, how well the excavators have performed in the past, along with a constantly updating map and predictions of where the cables are. And using natural language, it can actually read through these requests and it can flag if it's high risk or not, which allows Verizon to take some preventative action, such as increase communications with the specific diggers that seem like they're high risk. And that proactive approach can help reduce the chance of accidental cuts. And it's just one of those other weird ways that you see AI completely transforming our world in ways that you wouldn't really recognize. Now, there's just no human that can remember or analyze where all these cables are, but superhuman AI systems in the future really can. Next up, I got this fascinating research paper to tell you about. It's called Statewide Visual Geolocation in the Wild. Okay, now this paper is interesting because it's a model that's being trained in a really unique way on geolocation data. So think about something like Google Maps. And you have all these aerial satellite photos, and they've been geotagged together. So what you can do in theory, which is what these guys are doing, is you can train a machine learning model to either translate from one to the other, and then when it sees unknown data, make a prediction of where that could be. So you end up with a potential model that can take a photo that it's never seen before, analyze the background, if there's like a facade of a building or something there, and then send it to the AI, and it can try to geolocate where in the world that photo was taken. Now, the key idea for how they went about it was to divide the search region into these geographical cells. Okay, so they're breaking the satellite view into all these grids here, which can be trained for the street images that are found inside those ranges. The camera angle can also be trained in this nesting structure. Goes into this multi-head attention network based on the grids, and you end up with a street view predictive model. And unlike earlier methods, this approach doesn't rely on detailed camera info or panoramic views. And when the authors tested it on photos that were taken in Massachusetts, it achieved the impressive result of accurately locating 60% of the images. As they say, a major step forward in visual geolocation. Think about all the photos you've taken outdoors with stuff in the background that could be identified by a model like this. I'm just saying. You just know a future AI is going to be able to figure out our whole lives, right? Like it could probably find some old photo of you or me, and by the age of our skin or something, know kind of how old we were, make an estimate of like where the photo was taken, correlate that with all the other photos, information, and geolocation data that it has from the whole world, and start to piece together our whole lives, even if we're just in the background of thousands of other people's photos. All right, so that's a perfect segue into the next research I want to talk to you about coming out of the MIT Media Press. Now we're talking about AI implanting false memories, or at least conversational AI powered by a large language model amplifying false memories in witness interviews. Maybe not everybody knows this, but there's a lot of research out there now that shows that people's memories, especially when they're eyewitnesses, is very fallible. There's plenty of people who like get identified as the culprit and it's not them. There's something about our brains that is not truly remembering all of the correct details, especially when very dramatic things are happening. And if we get enough evidence, we can kind of inception them in, we can have false memories. If things seem very probable, our brain can just kind of fill in the gaps, and sometimes the wrong people end up in those gaps. And it's something the court systems now understand pretty well, I think, but for a long time they haven't, and it's certainly overturning a lot of cases in the past that were probably wrongly done. Now, with the power of AI, we can actually amplify that error. Not exactly sure why we would need this, but anyways, a study from MIT Media Lab looked at how AI, particularly chatbots powered by large language models, can create false memories during witness interviews. Okay, so what they did was they had the participants in the study watch crime videos, and the AI chatbot itself was actually tuned to put false memories, amplify false memories. Do you think it turned out 50-50, had no influence? Of course not. The study found that the generative chatbot led to significantly more false memories. And by significant, I mean by over 3 times more than the control group. And even the control group was coming up with false memories because we were fallible that way. And then you might question, well, maybe over time their brain started to work out the truth. Nope. Actually, after a week, the participants still held on to these false memories with high confidence. And the research raises serious concerns about the ethical use of AI in sensitive areas like police interviews. So sometimes when I'm reading these articles, trying to find out what fun stuff to tell you about, I just see a title and I'm like, I don't even get it, and I need to know what that even means. And this is one of those times. Mansion Bishop writes in Scientific American, evidence of negative time found in quantum physics experiment. I'm like, what's negative time? What do you mean negative time? The opposite of time? Like antimatter, but time? And it's kind of a thing, I guess. So in quantum physics, negative time refers to a situation where a particle, something like a proton, seems to actually complete a process, such as passing through a material or interacting with an atom faster than expected, even appearing to finish before it started. It's as if time had moved backwards during the event. And it doesn't mean that actually time reversed, but rather that it reflects this odd probabilistic nature of quantum particles and how they can experience certain types of interactions in ways that don't align with our everyday understanding of time. So yeah, these researchers, the University of Toronto, oh, isn't that where Jeffrey Hinton is? Good AI stuff over there too. Anyways, they discovered this bizarre quantum phenomenon where photons seem to travel backwards in times. So they're doing an experiment. Photons pass through a cloud of ultra cold atoms, and they sometimes appeared to exit before they even entered. And it's due to a strange behavior in photons in the quantum realm where their absorption and emission can happen over a range of times. And in some of those probabilistic outcomes, they even result in, quote, negative time. Yeah, and look, this research doesn't change anything about the understanding of time itself. It just highlights how weird and counterintuitive the quantum realm can be. And like, there's got to be some explanations for this. And one of the things I'm most excited about super advanced AI for is that it's going to explain some of these and put context around the universe, around physics, around what it means to be conscious. Like, we're probably going to learn some stuff in our lifetime that would completely blow Einstein's brain. All right, so this article is going to explore the idea that there are aliens or there are advanced civilizations out there that have come long before us, and there will be many more that come long after us. And as they get smarter and smarter, they may choose to first virtualize themselves, which makes sense. Like, you don't want to be in this like human meat body. You might not even want to be in some super advanced metal robot body, because what's even more robust than that would just be pure digital consciousness. Like, if everything that makes you and like the whole thing, if it could just be virtualized onto something that's a pattern, maybe something like a hard drive, but maybe something just using quantum mechanics, or maybe something using other elements in physics to keep the information of who you are there and processing and make you feel like what if our species moves that way? And then at that point says, why beam ourselves around the universe at the speed of light? Because that's like a hard limit that we physically can't get past. Why don't we just go into the Earth, and we don't have to worry about like asteroids? There's a big energy source like the center of Earth or the center of a sun or whatever, something like that, and then just exist. And that's just where they are. When we look up into space, we don't see them because they're inside their planets, not really giving us the kind of, material signatures that we would look for. It's based on 3 principles: special relativity, meaning that there's the limit to faster than light speed; the vulnerability of civilizations to disruptive technology, like you can't, get hurt by a virus if you're just a digital consciousness; and the potential for a fully immersive virtual reality, something that is better than what we have now, and it can be done all virtually. I mean, the author goes on, talks about maybe things like UFOs are actually like pre-human species that are also virtualized and live inside the Earth already, interacting with us. That would be crazy. Our intraterrestrial counterparts, already here. We're like maybe the second species on Earth, or even more than that, to come up with this level of intelligence, but we're still in such an early state. We haven't figured out how to get all the way there and then interact with them and then go into the Earth. But if that was true, you'd kind of think they would probably stop us from like messing up climate change and things like that, because that's the whole point. They like left being a physical thing so they could be virtual. I'm also about halfway through Yuval Harari's new book, which explores the nexus of society and information. Pretty interesting book. So far, he's really diving into the idea that information itself should be thought of as a much more tangible thing that can be just powerful in a lot of ways, like more dangerous than we expect, but also more unifying than you'd expect. Religious examples and all these historical examples and political examples of how stories that resonate and let us group together in ways that we would have never been able to group to before are just so valuable for building huge societies and getting everybody on the same page. But it doesn't always mean that like the truth is going to win out. In fact, sometimes not acknowledging the truth and saying like, this is how it is, and like, don't look anywhere else, like, here's your answer, is one of the best ways to unify people. But just the idea that stories are humans' most powerful invention, like we always think of it as language, but is it the stories that we tell ourselves that actually let us come together as a planet and build these giant technological marvels that we call cities and vehicles and technology, where tens of thousands of people and large logistical chains all have to come together to make something work? And then if we all actually come to understand the power of stories, is it something with that knowledge, the kinds of stories that allow for flexibility? Because the quality of the story, when you get a lot of people on board, definitely changes the outcome and the impact on the world. If you want to support my channel, join my Patreon or join the membership on YouTube. Either one, super help me out. All right, now let's go find some of my favorite comments from the last video and turn them into a song. Ooh, this looks like a perfect lyric. Drone and robotic policing is coming and everyone will hate it, and there'll be little that we can do, sadly. I'm thinking we go with an upbeat and happy style of music. Oh, this guy's talking about the new Actually It Works summon. I tried it twice a few days ago in a supermarket parking lot. It's crazy watching your own car coming to you among other drivers. It is not for the faint of heart. I haven't used it yet. I'm just a little too scared, but it's interesting. I believe that. All right, another perfect comment that we can use for our happy song. Regarding the drones, if you go outside, for that matter, walk around your home, you're most likely on a camera somewhere by someone or something, and maybe even inside your home.
Most likely on camera somewhere by someone or something, maybe inside your home.
Alright, hit subscribe. Maybe even filming you inside your own home. La-di-da. Oh, this is how the world ends.
Regarding nobody, policing is coming, and everyone will hate it, and there'll be little we can do, sadly. I tried it twice a few days ago in a quiet supermarket parking lot. It's not for the faint of heart. Regarding the drones, if you go outside, or for that matter, walk around your home, you are most likely on camera somewhere by someone or something, and maybe inside your home.
Did you subscribe?